Hi everyone, thanks so much for watching today. We are making this stunning Dia De Los Muertos wreath. Here's a look at all the supplies we're going to be using. We got 6 different ribbons, 2.5 inches, and 4 1.5. We're also going to be using 1 whole roll of 10-inch deco mesh. I'm also going to be showing you some of the other supplies we're using: Gorilla Glue, a rotary cutter, scissors. You may or may not need a chip clip. I'm also using pipe cleaners, a zip tie, and then these are going to be used to attach our sign. And this gel Gorilla Glue is also really great. To get started, we are going to be wiring our wreath frame. We're going to be adding pipe cleaners or Chanel stems all around the wreath frame. We're going to start by adding one to the top 2 rows of the frame and then adding them onto the bottom 2 rows of the frame. You want to make sure that it's tight enough so that it doesn't move around, but not too tight around the frame or it can possibly break the frame. Here you can see I have 3 in the section. We're going to go ahead and add that into each part of the frame, each section of the frame, until you have a total of 18. And here is what it should look like when you're all done. Next, we are going to be getting our sign ready. There are a couple ways you can prep your sign to be used on the wreath. You can get a jewelry hole punch and punch holes in them, but I don't have one, so I'm just going to be using these mounts that I bought at Home Depot. They are sticky, but I think they need more to hold them, so I'm just adding gel Gorilla Glue to 2 sides of the mounts, and after that I'm going to be adding hot Gorilla Glue onto the other 2 sides that I did not put the gel Gorilla Glue on. I've heard some people say that if you mix glues together, they actually do not work or hold. So I am going to believe that, and I'm just going to add them onto 2 sides. And I'm going to let that dry for a pretty long time. It does take quite a while for them to dry, so just be aware of that, which is usually why I try to prep my sign ahead of time. And depending on the weather, it could change how long it takes to dry. Next, we are going to be cutting our mesh. This is a 10-inch deco mesh. I'm going to be cutting just a small little piece off the end just to clean it up. And we're going to be cutting 20-inch pieces, and I'm going to be cutting 18. After cutting all 18 pieces, this is how much you should have left. Sometimes you have none left, sometimes you have a lot more left. It just depends. Next, we are going to be adding our ruffles. To make our ruffles, I am just going to fold down a small amount on one side, and then I'm going to scrunch up with both hands all the way till I get to the other side. I am using a little bit of a heavy object, my rotary cutter, to hold down the other side just to get it started because this mesh is awfully rolly. And once I get it all ruffled up together, you can hold it in your hand, and if you need to make adjustments, go ahead and do that now. Once it's all adjusted, I'm going to go ahead and add them into the pipe cleaner. I'm only going to twist the pipe cleaner 2, maybe 3 times, as I am going to be, once I add my ribbon, I'm going to be opening up the pipe cleaner, and then later on I will fully tighten it down. You're going to go ahead and make your 18 ruffles and add them to all 18 pipe cleaners. Once you have finished adding all of them in there, this is what your wreath should look like, which is the mesh on there. Next, we're going to get started on making our bow. I have this beautiful black and gold 2.5 inch wired ribbon. I'm going to be dovetailing my ends. I was not too sure if I wanted to do long ribbon tails or short ones, so I am just going to be making a long one, and then once it's on the wreath, I will figure it out to decide which way I like better. For this bow, I am making, well, first I am fighting with this ribbon, and once I have a little bit of control over it, I am making 5.5 inch loops on both sides. And then I'm going to be measuring out the same length of the tail as I did on the other side. I'm also going to be crisscrossing them. So if I have a tail on one side, on top of that will be a loop, and then do the opposite on the other side. Here you can see I am just measuring by eye. It doesn't have to be perfect or precise. Here you can see I'm crisscrossing them. Next, we are going to be adding my second 2.5 inch ribbon. I love this ribbon. This is absolutely stunning. So pretty. I'm going to be doing the same thing, dovetailing the ribbon. Y'all, this wreath was glittery. Glitter everywhere, but it's beautiful. I love it. Just very glittery. I'm doing the same thing with the ribbon tails. I'm not too sure. I'm just kind of making it a little bit smaller than the first tail. For this loop, I'm making 5 inch loops on both sides. Next, we're going to get started with our first 1.5 ribbon. This is a metallic gold. Again, I'm just dovetailing the end. And for this one, I'm making a little bit smaller of a tail than the first two. And when I put it in, I'm twisting in the center. And these loops are going to be at 4.5 on both sides. So for our next 1.5 ribbon, we have this black and gold ribbon. Same thing. I'm dovetailing it. I don't know how long I want my tails. I'm just making it a little bit smaller than the one before that. I'm pinching it where I want the tail to end, or where the loop will go in the middle. The dowels don't stand once you start adding your ribbon, so sometimes you got to pound it in there. For this ribbon, I'm also making 4.5 inch loops. I'm going to do that on both sides as well. All right, so for our next ribbon, we have this black metallic ribbon. You know the drill. I'm dovetailing it. I'm gonna make this tail a little bit smaller than the one before that. I did end up cutting these tails pretty short once it was on the wreath. That's all right. So these loops are going to be at 4 inches, and I'm going to do one on each side. So for our last ribbon, we have this beautiful ribbon, also black and gold. I'm not sure what that pattern's called. If you know, let me know. For this one, I'm doing the same thing. I'm dovetailing the end. I'm making this tail a lot smaller because I know for sure this one I will definitely want smaller. I am making 3.5-inch loops for these. As you're putting it in the wreath, it is a lot easier to put all your tails on one side and then your loops on the other side. So you can see I have tails on the top and the bottom, and then my loops are on the sides. So this way it's just kind of easier to, when you put it on the wreath, to already have them in place, and you can just fluff them out when ready. Once you have all your ribbon on there, we are going to carefully pull it off of the bow maker. I'm going to be using a zip tie to tighten down my wreath. And before I tighten down the zip tie all the way, I'm going to make sure all my ribbon is exactly where I want it. Oh, I did also add a center loop on that last bow. It's just a small one, I didn't measure it. I'm also going to be adding the Chanel stem into that zip tie and then tighten it down very, very tight. And then you can go ahead and spend the rest of the day fluffing the bow like I do, because I can never fluff a bow enough. If I fluffed it 10 times, I'm gonna fluff it 10 more times. And once I'm done fluffing it before it's even on the wreath, once it is on the wreath, I'm going to fluff it on the wreath again. And before I take pictures, fluff it some more. Here I am just figuring out where I'm going to be putting my sign and my bow. I like to do this before I add my ribbon tails. The next step in this wreath is adding our ribbon tails. I'm going to be using 2.5 ribbon with a 1.5. I have 4 different ribbons all together. All I'm going to be doing is taking one 2.5 ribbon and taking one 1.5 ribbon and folding them in half, pinching them in the middle, and then opening up that tie and then tightening it down really well so it's all the way closed. And then I'm going to be spreading them out, opening up those ribbons. They are wired, so they will go where you want to. I'm just alternating the pattern here, and I wasn't too sure if I wanted how close I wanted them to the bow. That's why I like to put them on before that's why I like to put the bow and sign on first. That way I know exactly where I want my ribbon tails to go and I don't end up wasting ribbon tails. After your ribbon tails are added, this is what the wreath is looking like so far. It is really looking beautiful. Next, we are going to be adding some embellishments. I have these glittery black and gold leaves. I also had some other embellishments that I ended up finding in my craft room. I didn't show them on camera, but once the wreath is completed, you'll be able to see them. All I'm doing is cutting off all of these pieces so I can add them into the wreath. I like to pre-arrange where I'm going to be putting my embellishments, and then I'll go ahead and use my Gorilla Hot Glue gun to add these into my wreath. The next embellishments I'm going to be adding are these black roses that I got at Hobby Lobby, and there you can see a little bit of the embellishments that I added. Let me tell you, black floral or greenery is so hard to find. I'm so glad that Hobby Lobby has these black roses. I know Dollar Tree did have some black floral around Halloween, but they do not have those yet, and I really wish I had stocked up last year. This year, definitely going to stock up because it has been very challenging to find black floral. Next, to finish off the wreath, I'm going to be adding these black ornaments. I got these at Dollar Tree also during Halloween. They are the perfect size for finishing off the wreath. All I'm going to be doing is I'm going to tighten down my pipe cleaners. I'm going to twist them about 4-5 times to make sure it's really secure. It can come undone, so make sure it is fully tightened down. And then I'm going to cut off the excess. I'm going to fold down half of the pipe cleaner, and then on the other tiny little nub of a pipe cleaner, I'm going to slide it into the ornament with a lot of hot glue, the Gorilla Hot Glue, because that is the best hot glue. And I'm going to do that on all of the exposed pipe cleaners. Here's the wreath with all the embellishments and the ribbon tails. I'm going to go ahead and get it hung up on the door so you can see what it looks like. It is absolutely stunning. I love this wreath. Thank you so much for watching today, and please subscribe to my channel, like this video, share it with some friends who may be interested in this. If you're interested in purchasing this wreath, be sure to check out my Etsy shop. Thank you so much for watching again, and I'll see you in the next one.